Once you win it, and you've got to go all the way to the end.
Lando into the final corner, his first win of the championship. Lando across the line to win in China.
Because you commit yourself to such a level where there is no compromise. You give everything you have.
The strategy paid off. He had one of the best hits I've ever seen on the medium tires. Next, they'll tell and wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
Nathan was the final chicane. Rudy's trying to go for it on the inside. There's still both wheels of order. Banging wheels, old school's gone round.
Oh my word!
And you need more than anything a very clear mind to understand exactly when is the moment to be aggressive, when is the moment to be calculated.
He spun. Brendan's
Oh, wing image. Oh, Brendan's out.
He's out of race. Oh my God, he's out of race.
When you are under a lot of pressure, in a critical moment, in a championship or in a particular race, it's the one that can put together the combination between aggressivity and calculating things that will get the best result.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the League of Europe. We are here for round number 4 around the Silverstone circuit. Of course, if you guys don't know me by now, my name is Jaco. Of course, I'll be taking you through this throughout the season. For some reason, I can't seem to get my words out, but I'll let the man introduce himself. It is none other than Dan, aka Daka. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Great intro, mate. Yes, thank you very much, Jack. And yet again, so much to anticipate here. We have the British Grand Prix, the 4th round of Season 6 of LOA Division 2. Cannot wait to get this one kicked off. Silverstone, of course, where Formula 1 began, the track that hosted the first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix. It feels like coming home, and what a circuit it is. Can't wait to see things get underway. And of course, after the last round in Spain, well, we saw Mr. TG Canoe take a commanding lead in the championship with his second race win in a row. Could he possibly make it 3? We'll see how we go. We've got 19 drivers then ready to go. Just going to start readying up into the race proper. So here we go now. 19 drivers ready to do battle. And around Silverstone, as ever, with this grid, we can expect an enthralling contest tonight.
There is always so much battling going on Silverstone. I think it's always usually one of the better races in the League of Europe, especially in Division 2. There's always been so many upsets that's happened in Division 2 with this track. I mean, think back to, what was it, Season 3, I believe? Adri was the one that won this race back in Season 3. Like, that's how much of a crazy race it was. Coming up from Division 3 to Division 2, he won that race purely with everybody else having penalties, everyone being in the train. And I get the feeling that we're going to have something very, very similar that is going to happen tonight. A lot of guys are going to be sat in just the train. It's whoever's going to keep it the most consistent, whoever's going to be the one that makes sure they keep that car on track. If you don't keep that car on track, well, there's a high chance you're either going to get overtaken or you're more than likely going to get a penalty. And speaking of that, at turn number 9, in case you guys don't know, for some reason sometimes the game doesn't actually tend to give you a penalty for some strange reason, or a warning or anything like that. So if you see any drivers do that, then we could be looking for a penalty to come their way straight after the race. But without further ado, we are just getting loaded up into qualifying. We're just waiting for all of those guys to pick their tyre strategies, or the tyre strategy that is only on this game. And then we, of course, can get qualifying straight underway. But, I mean, yeah, obviously, just to touch on the championship standings, of course, with Knuth taking the last 2 wins. I can't lie, Dan. They have been reasonably lucky 2 wins that he's had in these last races. Obviously, Knuth, don't get me wrong, very quick driver, but I've got to admit they have been quite lucky.
They've come in circumstances that are certainly far from the norm. At the end of the day, of course, you get an opportunity, you do have to take it. But let's see, maybe in a slightly more straightforward fashion, if he can grab a race win, because those wins have been very unusual, and to say that he's got 2 of those in a row is quite unlikely. But we'll see what happens here at Silverstone. We look for the drivers to head out on the track. pristine weather, beautiful blue skies. We'll see if, of course, if the race matches up to that. You'll be able to tell by the quali times, depending on the setups they're using, if it is going to be a wet race. Expect quali times around here, possibly dipping into the 124s, you'd say, in a full dry session. Would you say that's about right, Jack?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm actually looking in the Division 2 chat, and I think there actually is rain in the race. So I think we're going to be seeing quite a few guys potentially have some rain in the race. I don't know if there's been a bit of a lobby glitch because no one's out. Never mind. I was about to say no one's out, but no, there are people that are actually out on out laps. Both of the QVR boys of Kuhnbleit and Packer, both in the Williams, out on their out laps. But yeah, I mean, from what I'm looking in the Division 2 chat, there might actually be some rain going on in this race. So, well, I think this is where it could get a bit interesting, and I wonder if we're going to see anybody maybe try and go for a dry setup. And yeah, TDB's just confirmed that in the chat as well. Full wet all race. So this is where things are going to get very, very interesting. There are, of course, a few wet merchants to name. We've got the likes of Old School, who loves driving in the wet. We've got the likes of TDB, who also loves driving in the wet. We've got Larkin. You could see what his pace was like last season in the wet. Of course, this being a completely new game, there could be some more. There could be different people. I mean, I'm pretty sure Rudy is another one that is quite partial to a wet race. I don't know, maybe it's a bit 50-50 for him usually, but I'd say he is more quite partial to a wet race. A full wet race in Division 2. We had this last season. I can't wait to I can't wait to see how it's actually going to unfold instead of actually being involved in that chaos this time.
Well, of course, last season went even better. It was a full wet quali, full wet race. Let's see, with a dry quali wet race, how things are going to go this season. First over the line, as usual, QVR Packer. Let's run through his first lap of this session, heading through a farm corner there at turn 2. He's got a better traffic in Nico, but looks like that's going to be all fine. Heading through Village and then the loop. Be very difficult to make that apex, just about manages to get the nose in. It's all about traction through the exit, and now Packer then getting a bit of a tow from Nico. They're not teammates, but nevertheless Packer is going to get a good run down there, 27 flat through the first sector. I think you'll see some quicker times than that though. Let's see what he does now, heading through Luffield again, test the driver's patience, build it, squeeze the throttle, and then punch it through the exit onto the curb, using as much of the track as you can through the inside of Woodcote as well. Now Cope's corner is borderline flat out. You can see as he turns it in, just the slightest of entry lifts down in the 7th gear, just about able to keep it running. Now into the fabulous Maggots and Beckett's complex, then just a slight lift through the second part of Maggots, then heading through Beckett's and Chapel. You can see him running a little bit wide, bit of understeer, but he holds it together. Now 102.1 to the second sector, pretty quick indeed. Remember, we're not going to be seeing quite the times that we see in a full dry race, so let's see what Packer can do to open things up. Very clean heading through Stowe, just using that curb on the outside, better traffic as drivers build up for their laps. Packer's not going to be put off too much by that though, and he'll head it through the final corner now, through Club corner to the line. QVR Packer crosses 125.2, a pretty strong start to the session on his banker. 25.2, let's see how the rest of the time stack up. His teammate Kuhnbleit just a 10th of a second shy.
Yeah, there's a few guys now just coming across the line just to either finish their laps or get started on their laps. QVR Maledict is just starting on his lap as well. I think Nico just started on his lap. Gary also coming on to start his lap. I think Knuth might actually be the next one across the line. No, sorry, it was TDB putting it into P3, a 25.4. A few other guys now coming across the line as well. Zarma just coming to start his lap, as I believe also Marcel coming on to start the lap. So I think the next ones across the line are going to be both of the Hasses of Rashida and Rudy. As saying that, Rudy actually goes into the pit. So Rashida coming across the line now, a 26.0. I don't know if he's done that on a set of mediums. No, he's actually done that on a set of softs. So I'm sure that the Haas driver is going to want to try and improve on that lap time for sure. Matt Tibos did a validate on his lap, so he's not able to get a lap on the board just about yet. Larkin, I think that's the one that's just gearing up to get another lap, or get a lap on the board, so that's Scream as well. A lot of guys on their laps now. I'm trying to look through who's doing what. For some reason, there's a Red Bull and a McLaren going side by side of Nolan and Old School, as I think Old School went to go and overtake Nolan doing his lap. I don't know what was happening there. There's a
on
Williams
hot laps.
also. Yeah, it's very strange, but Old School crossed the line at 26.8. Of course, he's going to try and go for something a bit better than that. But that was very, very strange. Nico now making his way up towards the line to do a 25.750. And Car Mentalist invalidated on his first lap, so no improvement from him. Maledictus across the line at 25.7. And we're now going to start seeing him a lot more times on the board, as that is Hardy that has just come into the session. Gary across the line at 26.0 for the Irishman. And I believe Killer's going to be the next one across the line as well to put it in a P4, 25.492. Zadama also going to be the next one across the line and puts it into 7 for 25.821. Knuth, our championship leader, an absolute stonking lap of a 2 minute and 4 seconds.
I saw the Alfa Romeo line round at Cop, so that's why you're going to see it hit that lap time. Certainly not representative of the championship leader in the slightest. The man that's won the last 2 races, of course. Now, of course, we're seeing these lap times come in. Ariel Assassin coming up to the line. He goes 10th position. Of course, the man that finished 2nd last time out in the Spanish Grand Prix. Pack is still on top with his teammate Kumblai right in behind him. Of course, we don't know how this order is going to reflect the running order in the race. We don't know how much these drivers are all compromising their setups, because of course some drivers are probably going to be sacrificing this qualifying session, going for pace in the wet race that we have up ahead. Some drivers are going to be prioritising qualifying pace and track possession, trying to get up there and compromising their setup less, so they'll struggle more in the race. So it's going to be interesting to see that compromise and what the drivers are going to go for. As it seems at the moment, the Williams drivers seem to be running more of a dry setup just based on the times. They are 1 and 2, and they got the first times out on track. No one's been able to beat them, so we'll see how those guys fare. If they can hold on to that front row will be crucial, but don't forget, because even though some drivers may look very strong in qualifying, they could just be running more of a dry setup and will be vulnerable in the race, and vice versa. The guys lower down the field could come charging through in the rainy conditions later on.
No, they certainly could be. Also, don't forget there's a few more guys that are still yet to put laps on the board. Hardy joining late in the session. I don't think he's going to be allowed to set a lap time, so he's probably going to be starting towards the back end of the field. Nolan, Rudy, That Scream, Carl Mentalist and Matt Tivos. We know what these guys are all capable of. Nolan, of course, putting it on pole last week at Spain. Unfortunately, the race just did not play out well for him, but putting it on pole last week, we know Nolan has got pace for certain, and of course with it also being wet, there's going to be a massive difference. Not just like a tiny little difference like you could on the last 2 games. There's going to be a massive difference in this game, and with Packer and Kumblai on top, P1 and 2 at the moment, of course they're going to try and hold on to make sure that they stay up ahead of all of those guys. But then again, it's whoever's got the wet setup on, whoever's got the best wet setup on as well. I feel like they may struggle when it comes towards the mid to the end of the race, because they'll be using those dry setups to the point where it's then going to start to wear off for them. And the guy, obviously, where qualifying, I know it can matter sometimes on certain tracks. Around Silverstone, I'd say it's reasonably easy to overtake, DRS or no DRS. So I'm quite surprised if they have both gone with dry setups. I feel like that might have been the wrong call for the American and the Dutchman, because I feel like they're just going to be put under an immense amount of pressure when it comes to the maybe even towards the middle of the race. If anyone's probably got wet setups on, it's more than likely going to be TDB, because I know how much wet practice this guy does, and it's an insane amount.
Well, of course, finishing 2nd in the rain at Silverstone last season, the guy we see can definitely drive in the wet. Just looking for more times coming in. Rudy, I think, is going to be next up over the line. The Haas man, he was very quick through the 2nd sector, and he goes 2nd, just 1,000 clear of KVR Kumblai, so he splits that Williams formation up at the front. The first driver to do so far, and there's Nolan in the wall. The pole setter from Spain going off at the exit of the Marcus Beckers complex at Chapel into the wall. Must have, I'm assuming, gone through the grass and spearing off into the wall. Not sure about that, but Nolan out of the session. Disaster for the McLaren man after a dream qualifying session last time out in Spain. He's in a nightmare here in Silverstone. Yeah,
very unfortunate for the relentless driver, but we're riding on board with our current pole sitter, Rolf Packer. He is now just coming through the final chicane. I'm coming around Vale now, so let's have a look. The American up towards the line. Is it an improvement? It certainly is. Only just an improvement. The Dutchman doesn't make an improvement as well, so Kumblai doesn't make any sort of inroads up ahead of Rudy, so does stay in P3 for now, and Rudy putting it into second position. I wonder if he is running a wet setup or if he's not running a wet setup. I wonder if he's trying to counteract what these two Williams drivers are doing, because as I said, to me it doesn't look as if they're running a wet setup. They look like they're running almost a completely dry setup, and if they are running a completely dry setup, as I said, in this race they could be under quite a bit of pressure for whoever's going to come out on top with that one, as someone just improved on their time. I believe that was a Shida up into P6.
Yeah. Yeah, Sheena moving up the order then, so Haas going quite well as well in this qualifying session. It keeps glitching out for me, rain keeps appearing on the screen for a split second, but moving up, yeah, just briefly it does pop up on the screen, but now looking for more lap times. I think Matt Sebos will be the next driver over the line in the Alpine, so let's see what he does then. Over the line he goes fourth, good lap from Matt Tibos. We've seen his pace as well at the reserve driver going well so far out there on the circuit. We've seen him do well in qualifying all the way through the season. So who's going to be next up? I think Old School is probably the furthest along, and the Red Bull runs very wide though, heading through Stowe Corner, and I think that's going to compromise his lap. 26.8 at the moment, really struggling for pace, and it seems like Old School. I'm not sure about what you think, Jack, but it seems to me as if the Red Bull driver is essentially writing off this session and focusing everything on the race.
I think, yeah, I as I said, knowing what Mark is like in the wet, he loves a wet race. He absolutely loves it. Zadamo puts himself into P7, but yeah, Mark loves a wet race. So I won't be surprised if, yeah, you are right, maybe writing off the session. Of course, he wants to try and make up, wants to try and start in the best position possible. As what did your eyes catch?
Killer Blue round at Cops then, just managing to recover it. Little knock on the wall, but he is just about fine, can recover that. But yeah, Killer Blue going round, lucky enough to still be in the session, saved that fairly well. Sixth at the moment, has managed to just keep that car running, but yeah, it was a pretty scary slide off at Cops. Don't want to be going off there. Thankfully he holds on to it. He's going to have more of a chance later on in the session now.
Yeah, he certainly will. I think Knuth came across the line to do a 25.8. I don't know if he's actually going to come into the pits or not. I think he is using a bit of his ERS, so I think he might be on a lap. I'm just watching the German driver now coming through Cops, as of course it was going to be Killer Blue, that was going to be the next one across the line, but I think it will actually be Knuth if he is going for this lap. Also Vascream yet to put in a time on the board, is also currently on his flying lap as well. Just about 5 minutes left in this qualifying session, so just of course making sure everybody is tuning in, because we're going to be having a very interesting race. If you guys are just joining us, I will tell you now, it's a full wet race, and this is where things are going to get very, very interesting. It looks as if Knuth is on a lap, and he was 2.5 temps up on his lap, so 2.5 temps puts him up at around where Carmentis and Killer Blue are. But let's have a look at the German coming around the final corner now and up towards the line. It's in P7. I said it'd be around where Killer Blue and Carmentis is, straight down the middle of the both of them.
Yeah, good call there. Good call there, Jack. That's very well done from yourself. I do think that Screams on a lap. He does cross the line, goes 10th at the moment on a 25.6. Of course, the poor man's pole possession debate isn't exactly going to come into play much here, as Marcel's had a bit of an off then heading through Cops as well, so I think he's going to have to back off that lap at the moment. We're slightly up to the first sector, so Marcel, who we've seen show a lot of pace this season, just hasn't been able to put it together really on a regular basis. He did have a decent race though in Spain last time we saw fighting up at the sharp end, so he is improving. Let's see what he can do, but at the moment down in 15th with that mistake. A lot of cars in the pit lane. I think Ishida's the first car that's going to really kick off this flurry of laps at the end of the session, so we'll see how that goes. Or is Vascream going out yet again? He seems like he's still pushing to me.
Let's have a quick look. It does look as if he is pushing quite a bit. He's using his ERS as well, so I wonder if the Ferrari driver's just wanting to try and push that a bit more, and knowing that he can maybe get a bit more pace. Massive bit of dirt that he just sort of lifted off of coming in towards Chapel, and he is purple, and he's a 10.5 up on his times, so that Scream is going for another push lap. He knows he can go for one because it will be a wet race, so he doesn't even really need to worry about these tyres. He's starting on, he has unfortunately invalidated coming out at the exit of Stowe, so straight into the pits comes the Ferrari driver, and a few guys now coming out to start their laps or to go on their outlaps, but Ishida is going to be the first one to complete his final final flying lap, coming through turn number 2 and up towards turn 3, braking just after the 100-meter board, misses the apex completely, so that might cost him a couple of tenths, and a massive lockup coming through turn 4 as well. Now coming up towards, or coming onto the first DRS straight up towards Brooklands, Ishida, DRS now wide open for the Haas driver. What's his first sector time going to be? It's a 27.119, and that's 600ths down on his time, so not a good first sector for the Haas driver, but I'm sure sector 2 and sector 3 he can maybe try and make a few more inroads through Luffield now. Quite a nice exit, going as wide as he possibly could, and as completely backed out, so not going to put an improvement of a lap time in, maybe just going to gear up and get ready to go once again. So we'll keep on board with him, because I think he will be the first one across the line to go for another final flying lap. But yeah, not a good start for Ishida. Hopefully he can maybe try and bounce back in this one, but I think we're going to see a lot more improvements now. I think the guys that are on their wet setups, I think they're going to maybe try and lower their wings ever so slightly to try and get the best out of the dry conditions. Obviously, when it comes in towards the wet setup, or when it comes to the wet conditions, is where things are going to be a bit more hectic. And, well, I say a bit more hectic, it's going to be a lot of chaos that's going to ensue in this race. And honestly, Dan, I'm here for it.
All here for it as well. Let's see what Ishida could do though on this second attempt. He has got a bit more out of the tyres, but he looks like he's got enough fuel to keep pushing on. So Ishida now over the line yet again. He's going to have a Red Bull coming out the pit lane in front of him. Hope it just stays nicely out the way. Yes, he does. That's Zernova. Now how's turn 3 at Village? Much tighter to the apex. Good, better line for Ishida. Still fighting the car though a little bit. The braking, a bit of a rear locking then from the Haas man. He's going to get it picked up now. Onto the Wellington straight as he opened his DRS very late down the straight, very oddly enough, and he is way down there at 27.2, nearly 27.3, and he invalidates. So to be quite frank, disastrous laps for the Haas driver Ishida off the road as well. Well, those last runs have not gone to plan at all for the Portuguese man.
No, it certainly hasn't. I'm just looking to see who else is on a lap. Larkin looks as if he's sort of backed off of his lap, so probably going to try and go for a late one as well. Gary, the Irishman, in P9, is going to be the first one to come across the line to complete his final lap, as Ishida has actually binned it coming out of Cops. So, yeah, the Portuguese is just not going to get any sort of improvement done. The Irishman, though, coming through Cops, taking that flat out nicely done from Gary. Now through Maggots, through Beckett's, and coming up towards Chapel. Completely misses the apex through Beckett's, so might have cost him a couple of tenths in that one as well, but he is 200ths up on his time, and any sort of improvement can really help the Irishman. He needs to just try and keep it as consistent, as tight as you can through Stowe, and that was very nicely done from the Irishman. Probably could have pushed that a tiny weeny bit more, but nonetheless, coming through the final chicane now, has a bit of a lockup coming through it, out of the penultimate corner, through the final corner now. Gary, is it an improvement on his time? It is, and it only just beats Car Mentalist, who is also on a flying lap. Everybody is out on their flying laps, and Nico is going to be the next one, the other Aston Martin, and yeah, 4 tenths up on his time. This is going to put him around where Kuhnblei is, the QVR driver, up into second position. What a lap time that is from Nico as Killer Blue across the line on pole. We're seeing a lot more improvements now, Dan. And then we're going to see Kuhnblei now come across the line. He's 2 tenths up on his time and pips that pole position. We're going to keep on seeing this chopping and changing. Car Mentalist is going to be the next one across the line. He done a 2.2 in the second sector, and now up towards the line. Car Mentalist into P7. Decent lap time from the Brit. Matt Tibos coming across the line now up into P5, just up ahead of Rudy, who unfortunately retired from the session. One of the Alfa Romeos, that is Knuth. Our 2 race winners and our championship leader now coming up towards the line, and it's into P5 for the German, a 25.293. That Scream, I believe, is going to be the next one. No, it's actually Assassin, and only into P12 for him. Maledictus across the line. No improvement for the Portuguese driver as TDB. First one into the 24s. That Scream comes across the line in the 25.2, and there's a few more guys now coming across the line. Once again, Packer, no improvement. Marcel comes across the line to put it into P12 as well. Zaldama and Old School are the last 2. Zaldama across the line into P10. Old School, no improvement for him either. Larkin, again, no improvement for him either. He did unfortunately invalidate on his lap, but that is all she wrote for qualifying. And TDB, out of nowhere, puts in a monstrous lap and puts it on pole position, and Packer into second place. If you would have said that those two were on pole position last season, that would have been an Alfa Romeo 1-2, and I'm sure they would have been very happy with that one. But in fact, sorry, no, it was Koenblai that's actually put it into second. Sorry, I thought Paco was the one that in second. So yeah, it's a Dutch front row. TDB on pole with Kuhn in second, Killer in third with Packer in fourth, Dash Scream in fifth, Nico sixth, Knuth in seventh, Matt Tibos in eighth, Rudy in ninth, Zardama rounding out the top 10, Carl Mentalist in 11th, Gary in 12th, Marcel 13th, Assassin in 14th, Ashida in 15th, Maledictus in 16th, not a good day of qualifying for the Portuguese drivers, Larkin in 17th, Old School in 18th, Nolan in 19th, who didn't manage to get a time on the board, and Hardy of course joining late, not going to put a time on the board either, so they will be rounding out that back row. Nolan versus Hardy at the back row. They've had a bit of controversy in the past, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how this is going to go in the race if that does continue, especially in the wet.
Oh yeah, certainly, and of course you mentioned the wet conditions. TDB on pole position is ominous for the rest of the drivers. It is absolutely pouring it down. Look at that rain. That is quite extraordinary. I think it's going to be full wets for sure. Out there on the circuit. But yeah, TDB on pole position, you mentioned about his wet practice, we touched on his wet pace. If he gets a good start and leads in a turn one, it could be a very long day for his rivals. But of course, getting pole position in a dry qualifying session, what's he gone for on setup as well? That dilemma always evolving. There is so much intrigue, so many ways this race could play out as ever in Division 2. TDB on pole position, 26 laps separating him from the win. Can he hang on to it?
Well, let's have a look. Is it actually full wet tyres or is it intermediate tyres? Let's have a quick look. It's actually full wet tyres. So we're going to be seeing a lot of guys in this completely struggle. But I'm quite intrigued to see who's the ones that have gone for that wet setup, who are the ones that have gone for the dry setup to try and get as high as they can in qualifying. Racing Koenblai around here a few seasons back around Silverstone, whilst it was wet, I will admit he is very quick in the wet. Koenblai, he does a very good job in the wet. So if I'm going to say for anyone to maybe pip it for today, I actually think Koenblai might take the win for tonight. I think it's going to be very close. I think the top three that we've got at the moment are going to be the three that will finish on that podium. But it's going to be a completely different order. I think Koenblai will win. I think TDB will get second. And I think Killer Blue will get third. I think those top two will just switch around. But again, anything can happen in this race. It is a completely wet race. And I think TDB is just trying to get a proper lap around here. Just to get the feel for the wet weather. And seeing if he can maybe try and put in some consistent laps on in these conditions. But I mean, anybody here that might be a bit of a standout for yourself. I mean, Larkin down in 17th and Old School down in 18th. As I said, those guys love a wet race, and they're going to need to do a lot of moves if they want to have a good, decent points position for tonight.
Yes, certainly. Those guys, of course, wet specialists, they'll look to try and move their way up. Other guys I know are good in the wet. Car Mentalist, I know, can definitely drive in the wet. So we'll see how some of those guys in the legs, of course, down in that midfield, heading into turn one. Turn one can be chaotic at the best of times. In the wet, still very high speed. It's going to be very, very difficult. Silverstone is one of those tracks that transforms in the wet because a lot of corners that aren't really considered corners in the dry become real challenges when the rain is pouring. Well, let's see how this is going to unfold then. It's TDB, Koenblai, Killer Blue, the top three. You think they will stay in the same order, or, well, not in the same order, but you think that those three will stand on the podium. We will see, of course, as the grid now lines themselves up. So TDB on pole, Koenblai alongside him. Take it away, Jack. Let's see how this race kicks off.
The interesting thing as well, they're on the full wets. They don't need to make a pit stop. So if they wanted to go the entire 26 laps on these wets, they can do that. Of course, obviously, if it gets a bit drier, then they're going to go on the set of the intermediates. But if they don't have to, if they don't want to, they can just stay on these wet compounder tyres to the end of this race. But we have now got the 3, 4 and 5 red lights. Round number 4 even, it is lights out and away we go, and TDB getting a very good start, but Koenblai already getting himself up into the lead of this race, and it looks like Packers also had a very good start as well. Killer Blue, not the best of starts as TDB. Oh, he has gone around. Oh no, he hasn't gone around, sorry. There's been already a safety car put in place. Matt Tibos having a 5-second penalty for a severe collision, but it's already a Williams 1-2. Packer had a lightning start. Got on past Killer Blue, got on past TDB. TDB must have just had a bit of oversteer coming through turn 2 because that Scream has also gotten past him as well as Killer Blue. But Kublai, he had a very good start against the XL driver of TDB and now up into the leader's race. Packer putting himself up into second, Killer Blue in third, that Scream in fourth, TDB in fifth, Nico up into 6th position, Knuth in 7th, Zaldama in 8th, Matt Tibos 9th, Carmentalist in 10th. Quite a sort of even start from a lot of these guys, but yeah, it's a full course. Is it a full course safety car? No, it's actually a virtual safety car. For some reason, it's not popping up in the top left. It just says there's a full yellow flag. So yeah, a virtual safety car. Let's have a look and see how it's going to get underway from these restarts. But I mean, the position changes, yeah, just from the start alone. Larkin and Nolan up 3 places. Hardy, Zaldama and Packer up 2 places, and then Kublai, The Scream, Carmentalist, Old School all up 1 place. Assassin did not have a good start. TDB did not have a good start, and Maledictus all did not have a good start. Rudy ended up down 2 places as well. Matt Tibos just, of course, being overtaken by Zaldama, and I believe by, was just overtaken by Zaldama. But we have now got racing underway once again, and it looks like Nico was the one that actually probably had the best start out of them all. He is now on the attack on TDB. TDB runs very wide coming out of Stowe, and Nico, I know he's not going to be very happy with that one, but a little bit of contact between TDB and that Scream, and I think, well, hopefully TDB for him, he hasn't gotten himself any damages. Marcel and Larkin down in 13th and 14th, both going side by side. Marcel, bit of oversteer on his screen, so that means that Larkin will get that jump up ahead of the AlphaTauri driver as Assassin picks himself up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I did also realise Carmentalist picked himself up a 5-second penalty as Assassin has unfortunately retired from the session, and all of it has completely kicked off as Maledictus is into the pit. So yeah, it's all been a go already, Dan, and this is only lap 2.
Chaos early on then, that's what you'd expect from the wet and Silverstone. Up the field, TDB managed to make a move on that Scream. He's pulling back some ground then. Still that Williams 1-2 from Killer Blue in 3rd position. TDB up to 4th, that Scream down to 5th. Nico chasing in 6th. You can see them all just filtering through then, trying to manage it, trying to just keep that right foot tamed further back in the field. Rudy and Gary side by side. Rudy inside of Lutfield, able to clear the Aston Martin of XL Gary and XL Larkin, and behind Gary sideways through Woodcut. Manages to hold on to Marcel with a penalty. We've seen a flurry of penalties in that midfield during that VSC, and that's not going to help those guys one bit. Matt Tibos, Carmentalist, Gary and Marcel all getting penalties under that VSC has really set them back. Up at the front though, Kublai leading, Packer's being dragged with him. Killer Blue struggling to live with these two. So at the moment, Williams running clear at the front. They're having a brilliant start as Marcel, same round, hitting out of Chapel. Marcel on the wall, he's just managed to keep it in the race, but no front wing. Disaster for the AlphaTauri man.
Yeah, those two Williams have completely shot off already and almost out of that second from Killer Blue anyway. Obviously, there's not going to be any DRS because it is pouring down with rain, but Killer just looks like he is struggling to try and keep up with those two Williams drivers out in front. Kublai does set the fastest lap of the race, and yeah, Killer, I don't know what is going on with him, but he just seems to be struggling to just even potentially try and drag himself back in with these two Williams guys. It's Marcel into the pits and Marcel out of the race. Second retiree in 3 laps. Of course, it's not something we want to be seeing, but completely broken front wing. As I said, these guys don't really even need to make a pit stop. Maledictus did come into the pits, I'm assuming, to fix a front wing, as Rudy and Nolan both going side by side. Still both going side by side as Nolan getting that move done, coming on to the first DRS straight. Of course, as I said, not going to be any DRS. Old School now going for the move on Gary as well, coming in towards Brooklands. Old School does back out of that one, so the Irishman versus the Irishman, as he likes to call himself anyway. Both just having a little bit of a scrap. Rudy maybe trying to eye up a move once again on Nolan, but Nolan does think better of it and it comes back out on top. Larkin already now up into 10th position. And this is why we call him the Wet Merchant, because he's now up into 10th and going to be chasing down Carmentalist. And he's, well, from 17th on the grid all the way up into 10th, Larkin is having an astounding start to this race. In 3 laps, he's made up 7 positions.
Moved his way well up the order then, is still a lot of battling further up the field. Knuth has been hounding Nico this entire lap. Nico feels the need to go defensive towards the entry to Stowe, but he will hold on to the 6th place in the Aston Martin. But the championship leader is pressured. Knuth up there as well in this race, not quite at the heights we've seen in the last couple of races, but of course it can all change. That Scream running a little bit wide. managing to hold onto it. Looks fairly stagnant down the field. A few feints being thrown out by the likes of Old School in the back of Hardy, but that doesn't quite come to fruition. Still very close. It is Kublai from Packer. Those two continue to run riot. I've never seen Packer perform this well in a wet race, really, but he is going very strongly at the front. And really, as TDB in fourth runs very wide, heading through Village, really the battle seems to be, as we've got yellows out there. That's Ashida out. Ashida coming out of farm towards Village has gone out, and a full safety car deployed then. Ashida now out. You can see him spearing off to the side on the entry to Village, so he's now out the running. Shouldn't be really many strategy changes, so this won't change much in the grand scheme of things. Rudy is backed up everyone hugely, and we're seeing penalties being given out galore, Jack.
Yeah, Nolan and I think that was Zaldama as well, both getting given a penalty, a drive-through penalty, which it was really surprising for me that Zaldama is one of them that's gotten them. But Nolan as well, picking himself up a drive-through penalty. He had an absolute train behind him of Rudy, of Gary, of Hardy, of Old School as well. And Zaldama, I'm sure he's happy that a safety car has come out. But with that drive-through now, well, that's completely made that just null and void. Maledictus, I'm sure, is going to be very happy that a safety car has come out, because he's about 35 seconds down the road from everybody else, so he can at least have a bit of a catch-up. But I'll tell you who's not going to be happy with that are the two Williams drivers of Kublai and Packer. They had made up already almost 3 seconds on Killer Blue at the front of that grid, and now, well, that's now going to be completely null and void, and Killer Blue, I'm sure, is going to be very happy that a safety car has come out, because now he at least has the opportunity to try and challenge both of those Williams drivers once again. I wonder, are we going to see anyone maybe make their way into the pits? I wouldn't suspect it, but I'm sure there could be a few other people, as Zaldama picks up yet another drive-through penalty under the safety car, which I don't know why. Nolan comes into the pits? No, Nolan's had an off somewhere. Oh, no, Rudy's in.
Rudy and Gary have gone into the pits.
Yeah.
So Nolan stays out with the drive-through. Zainova, who's picked up 2 drive-throughs in one lap. I wonder. I'm not too aware, not too knowledgeable about the glitches on this game, but could it maybe be that they don't have a delta to follow? I'm not sure, but getting 2 speeding penalties on the same lap is very peculiar, and especially from someone like Zainova, I wouldn't expect it. So I wonder if there's something higher up going on then. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a Codemasters game. Is Nolan round under safety car, spins it round in the McLaren. He won't lose too much. Just a position to Hardy, manages to recover it, but Nolan spinning off, and that is how treacherous these conditions could be, even under safety car. The track surface, you can see, completely soaked. And that, of course, then lowering the grip, throwing off the drivers, and you can see then Nolan going around. He will recover it, but not serving that drive-through, interestingly enough. Zerwa has gone through the pit lane, but of course, he's got another one to serve after that.
The thing is, he actually made a proper pit stop. He's put on a fresh set of wet tyres. So,
oh, hang on.
Rudy and Gary, they've gone on intermediates.
Wow, look at the rain. I'm not sure if this is going to work, Jack. I'm watching Rudy. I'm trying to see, can he find any grip out there? Gary's behind Old School, so this is a decent indicator. It doesn't look too bad, although he is washing across the track surface just a little bit. His pace doesn't look too bad relative to Old School, of course, under safety car, so you have to take that with a pinch of salt. But, of course, the wet tyres aren't typically that good, so we'll see how this goes then. So Gary and Rudy going for these intermediates, how is this going to work? Are they going to prosper, or are they going to suffer when the restart comes around?
I really don't know. There might be something that we don't know, where it could be a point where the rain's going to ease up, and that's why these guys have gone on the set of the intermediates. Even if the safety car comes in, it's still full wet tyres, and the guy Rudy and Gary are still on those intermediates, of course, as Nolan actually comes into the pits. So he's going to be possibly going on a fresh set of intermediates as well. But, yeah, I mean, even if it is still wet tyres, only for maybe 1 or 2 extra laps, the guys that are already intermediates, they've kind of put a very good strategy in place, because then it's going to make everybody else in front pit, other than Rudy and other than Gary, and it's then going to mean that they've got basically an extra 30-second advantage when those guys do make that pit stop. This is either a masterclass or a disaster class that these two have gone ahead and done for tonight. If these intermediates do play out, then yeah, they've completely mastered that strategy, and I think Gary and Rudy, hats off to you boys.
Well, let's see how this is going to unfold. Now, of course, we know it's Britain and the weather's unpredictable. Right now, the rain does not look like easing up in the slightest. It is still pouring it down out there on the circuit. You can see it there. It is torrential, but you never know. It could stop raining in a couple of minutes. This is Britain, after all. So let's see how this is going to unfold then. But these guys going for the bold strategy on inters. The wets, as I mentioned, are never that quick at the best of times, even in conditions that suit them. So Rudy and Gary making a massive gamble here as Matt Tibos and Knuth swapping places. I think Matt Tibos getting past Knuth briefly, but of course giving that right back up. He and Carmentalist picked up penalties on the opening lap, so while they've had good starts to the race, they are slipping back at the moment. Matt Tibos holding position. Carmentalist up to Hardy, up 9 from the back of the field, so he's by far the biggest mover. Him and Larkin have made the moves. The field is condensed, so we should get back to racing as they come over the third sector line. The safety car will be announced as coming into the pits right about now. Just a little bit too early, but there we go. Safety car in this lap, and Kublai leading away from his teammate. Are these Williams guys going to try and cooperate here? They can try and get a jump on Killer Blue. Kublai from the front. How are he and his teammate going to play this one?
See, I reckon that they're going to try and get the best jump as possible. Kublai's going to let Packer know as soon as he's going, so then they can get the best jump on Killer as much as possible. But Killer needs to try and read this to perfection. You can see how slow Kublai and Packer are going. These tyres are going to be frozen when they start to get going, and I'm assuming Kublai is going to get going around where this 150 meter board is, either that or he's going to get going at that fight at the penultimate corner. Yeah, you can already see it. The 150 meter board, he's already going for it, and because of it being in a corner, they have not been. As yeah, a few guys now coming into the pits, Zaldemar and Nolan. Actually, I think they're trying to serve their drive-throughs now, so they are coming in to serve those. Hopefully they can get them done. But yeah, this is what I'm quite intrigued in. The intermediate tyres, Rudy and Gary are the ones we're going to need to keep our eye out on. Old School did not get a very good restart, and Gary is all over the back of him as Nico and Knuth down in 6th and 7th, having a bit of a change down there. So Nico just defending from Knuth for that 7th position. Matt Tibos did not get a good restart as Nico having to hold it around the outside and try and to stay up ahead of our championship leader. Knuth though trying to hold it down the inside, coming up towards Brooklyn. This is Spaniard going to be able to outbreak the German. Let's have a look. Matt Tibos is also involved in that one. Knuth goes down the inside and does manage to maintain that position, but Nico going to have the inside coming through Luffield now. A little bit of wide goes to Spaniard, but they're both still side by side. Nico looks like he got the much better traction coming out of it. A little bit of an oversteer though from the Spaniard, and Knuth going to get that move done before coming up towards Cops and through Woodcut as well. So Nico, unfortunately for him, it was going to be a good move, but unfortunately it just did not work out. Knuth though looks like he went way too wide coming through turn 9. Nico's going to try and take the advantage of that one coming through Maggots, and they're going to still both be side by side. Nico buzz back out from that one, but Matt Tibos also trying to go side by side, and now goes around is Matt Tibos. That's not a move you want to be doing, and look at how much time that has costed Knuth from Nico as well. 3 seconds from the back of that screen, and Packer and Kublai, look at the restart that those boys have gotten. Rudy gets past XL Hardy, they're both still side by side coming through Stowe. I think we're close to the crossover point of the inters to the wets. Rudy going down the inside of XL Hardy. Hardy's going to try and maintain the inside for the end of the chicane, but Rudy got much better traction coming through that, and I think we are at this crossover point. I think the intermediates are looking a lot more better than these wets, Dan. So I think Rudy and I think Gary have played this strategy very, very nicely. They've just got to hope that a safety car does not come out, and they would have played this to absolute perfection as Car Mentalist goes very wide coming out of turn 3. It's going to allow Rudy to try and go down the inside and around the outside of turn 4, but Car Mentalist is going to hold on to that one. Larkin does also get past the McLaren driver, and Larkin now all over the back of the Spaniard. This battle between Knuth and Nico, well, he's now a spectator and also an attacker in this battle. As I said, we know what Larkin's like in the wet. He needs to try and dispose of these guys quickly to try and catch back up to those top 5 guys, as Kublai 1.2 seconds up ahead of his teammate, Packer 1.3 seconds up ahead of Killer, and Killer a second ahead of TDB. Those guys are all separated at almost an even amount. Vash Scream is just the one that's keeping with TDB in those top 5, but the rest of the grid are all so condensed.
Rudy flies past Carmentalist. These intermediates are working a treat here. Rudy storming through the field at the moment, and this battle between Knuth and Nico has set it back more than 3 seconds from the top 5.
Oh, Knuth!
Knuth is round! Knuth the
championship leader in the Chapel Round. The Alfa Romeo spinning from the front of the train to the rear of it. Knuth, unbelievably round here, and this changes everything. There's a massive opportunity now for the rest of them to get back in this. Gary, round Old School slipping back. Maledictus the inside of the Red Bull, who nearly runs into the Aston Martin. Old School has to yield it. Maledictus gets through just about, as Gary now with a penalty for ignoring a yellow. Didn't even see a yellow besides where Knuth went off. Through goes Gary, back goes Old School in particular. So Gary now another penalty. Rudy now hassling Larkin to the inside of Village. The Haas is going for another Mercedes. Larkin trying to hold it round the outside. He's got the inside line for the loop, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to that. Rudy has supreme grip on that outside and powers his way through. Look at Rudy go, flying his way up the order, and Larkin can just sit and watch. He cannot live with these enters. Rudy, there's not much in it, as Larkin nearly goes into the back of Rudy, but Rudy, he's not got much more grip, but he has got more. Now Nico started to reel in that screaming TDB up in that fight. Rudy right in this at the moment. I tell you what, a podium's not too far away if he keeps going like this.
I think Rudy might have played this to complete perfection. He is doing a master drive on these intermediate tyres. Gary just doesn't seem to be making much inroads. He's gotten past Old School and Maledictus, but he can't seem to get past anybody else. Of course, he's hounding the back of Hardy, but that 5-second penalty for the Irishman is just going to put him at more of a hindrance. He needs to get past Hardy. He needs to get past Car Mentalist. He's really got to hope that a safety car does not come up, because these intermediates are looking a lot better than these wet tyres. And saying that, look at Rudy now, all over the back of Nico, coming down the hanger straight. Nico's going to try and go defensive from the Dutchman, and he pulls back on towards the racing line. Rudy touches the grass ever so slightly, going around the outside of Stowe, goes very wide coming out of Stowe. He can't keep that position. Nico has to get that one back, but he goes down the inside, coming through club corner, and Rudy gets that 6th position. I think he did let him go ever so slightly, but just out breaks Nico. Nico now back down into 7th position. Rudy, 1.3 seconds now separates him from those front wet runners, and they're all separated by nearly a second and a half of each other. TDB 2 seconds from the back of Killer Blue. Killer Blue almost dropping back 3 seconds from Packer, but Kumblai is completely running away with this race so far.
Kublai dragging Packer with him, those two pulling clear at the moment, but Rudy is flying so quickly. I don't know, but it seems at the moment as if Rudy, no one can get in his way. Gary, as you mentioned, not quite having that same progress. He's trying to get through on Hardy. He's got close several times, but has not quite managed to find a way through as of yet. It's Carmentalist Hardy in that fight. Matt Tibos on the back of Old School. Old School fresher tyres trying to work his way through as Rudy. Hounding that scream now. He's got full battery, of course. Very easy to manage it in these wet conditions. Rudy is coming in. That scream not into Cop. Surely he's going to go for it in the Haas. On the inside, Bravery. Can he get this one stuck? Yes, he can. That scream had to get out of it. Rudy, he's driving with absolute commitment. Gary throwing Hardy as well, further down the field. As Rudy gets through, and he is driving with absolute commitment, absolute bravery, as Matt Tibos and Old School going at it, hitting the maggots and Beckett's up. Matt Tibos able to get in front of Old School and get that last point spinning position. But on Rudy, he's driving absolutely. Actually, I can't yet. Old School is fading back, and Matt Tibos outside, heading into Stowe, almost wheel to wheel. Matt Tibos looks like a little bit more straight line speed though on the inside into Stowe corner. As now you can see pit stops. Killer Blue, TDB, that scream, they're all coming in. And at this stage, with these pit stops, he must be for renters. The crossover's coming. Rudy fastest lap, and if these tyres last to the end of the race, can anyone stop the Haas driver from running away with this run?
There's only going to be one person that can stop him, and that's going to have to be Gary, because Gary is the other one that came in for a set of the intermediate tyres. I said, all they have to do, couple of laps, whilst these guys are running on these on the wet track, if they just keep within these wet tyres, which they have done, when they make their pit stops, well, they're going to be miles ahead of everybody else, and it looks as if that is what is happening. Gary now hounding the back of Car Mentalist. Interestingly enough, when Rudy got that move done at Cops, I can't remember who that was on. I think it might have been, was it on that Scream? Gary got a move done on Hardy at the same place as well. So Gary, he's making up a few more inroads now, and you can see how much more grip he has coming out of left field. Carmensis just looks like he was struggling going through there. Gary, much more grip in comparison to the McLaren in front of him. Of course, he's going to have to wait through Maggots and Beckett's to get a move done, unless Carmensis makes a mistake coming through Cops. But Gary, just look at how much more grip he has in comparison to the car up ahead. I think this is Rudy's race to lose at this point. He's starting to catch up to the two Williams in front. They've been doing exceptional so far, but the strategies have been so much better from Rudy and from Gary. I really can only say that these two are now going to be the top two. It's just whoever's going to come out on top in third. Killer Blue is the one that managed to get ahead of TDB in that pit stop phase, and that Scream 3.5 seconds behind the Dutchman as Koenblij now into the pits for a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Question is he going to come out ahead of Killer Blue, and is he going to come out ahead of TDB? Because those guys, they were a couple seconds behind, but the intermediates, you can start to see they are so much better than what the other the wet tyres are now, as Larkin also making his way into the pits. Car Mentalist, interestingly enough, and Nico all staying out. So really, Gary, he's just putting so much pressure on Car Mentalist to the point where he can't get to her as a Car Mentalist. A massive bit of oversteer coming through turn 2. Gary, I think, was thinking twice on going for a move there, but now coming around turn 3 and outside of turn 4, Car Mentalist is going to have the inside. Gary's going to try and go for a bit of a switchback. Has the better grip, the better run on the McLaren driver as Maledictus sets the fastest lap of the race now. Gary using that ERS to try and get past Car Mentalist. He's going to have the slipstream, going to go down the inside in towards Brooklands. Car Mentalist, I don't think he's going to be able to put up too much of a fight. No, he is not. The Aston Martin, the Irishman, he is on a charge. He's now up into 4th position. Next up, though, is his teammate, and he's only 3.5 seconds up the road. Rudy, you can start to see, is reeling in Packer now. The gap was about 5 seconds 2 laps ago. It's now down to 3.5 seconds, Dan. So I think Rudy, yeah, I think this is definitely his race to lose.
Certainly, and Packer being hung out to dry at this stage at the moment. Of course, couldn't pit in behind his teammate, but these guys now on the enters clearly a couple of seconds a lap quicker at this stage. Koenblij managing to stay nicely ahead of Killer Blue. Killer Blue, I don't think, had the best outlap. Now TDB is all over the rear of him, so that's the battle for P10 and P11 would have been the battle for P3. And it could well still turn into good results as Matt Tibos is allowed through by XL Hardy. Very strange out there on the circuit. Now Packer does come in. I suspect that Nico is staying out here. So is Nico, because don't forget, it is a very long pit lane at this stage. And if he's staying out this long without having to stack behind his teammate, let's see, because look, Car Mentalist, Matt Tibos, they're all staying out, and I'm thinking these guys must be having the thought that they need now to stay out, because the pit loss here is so massive. If these conditions hold up, they just got to hope that they still have enough pace to hold on. So Nico and the likes have stayed out, because the pit stops are going to cost you close to 30 seconds, and that is a deficit has a gap you just can't afford to lose. So now Nico staying out is going to be very intriguing. Can these guys that were in front of him before on the much faster, fresh, intermediate tyres catch him, or has Nico pulled the blade here and trying to get himself onto the podium?
I think there is an opportunity for the Spaniard to get himself on the podium with his teammate. I mean, Gary's obviously got that 5-second penalty to his name, but I think he's going to get past his teammate and go clear of him from that point. It's just Gary needs to get up to the back of Nico first. He's already dropped Car Mentalist by 1.5 seconds. Also, just quite interestingly enough, in those pit stop phases, Packer does actually come out behind Koenblij and comes out only just, though, ahead of Killer Blue. And the TDB, look how much he's hounding the back of the Mercedes driver. But the thing is, TDB has a penalty to his name. He's got a 5 second for speeding in the penalty. The other guys with 5-second penalties as well, Matt Tibos, Car Mentalist and Gary. And Car Mentalist and Matt Tibos, they're up ahead of Hardy. Hardy really just needs to sit where he is at the moment. He'll jump not 1 but 2 drivers of Car Mentalist and of Matt Tibos. So really, Hardy, he's also in a pretty decent position. He just needs to hope, like you said, Dan, that these intermediates aren't going to become to the point where they're extremely powerful as saying that. I can't believe that. I've just commentated. Cursed him, haven't I? TDB gets past Killer Blue, but Hardy picks himself up a 3-second time penalty. Is that TDB getting a bit of oversteer coming through Stowe? I thought Killer Blue was going to try and go back past, but Gary now within that 1 second of his teammate, and Car Mentalist is not keeping inroads with him. Koenblij sets the fastest lap of the race in P8 as Maledictus and Das Scream both going side by side, and Das Scream still holding the inside in the final corner. The Portuguese trying to get past the German, but I think Maledictus is going to hold it around the outside of turn 1. They're both still side by side, both touching wheels. Das Scream has to back out of it, and Larkin's going to have to run now on the Ferrari. He's going to go down the inside into turn 3, goes very deep. Does the Brit, that Scream going for a bit of a switchback, and what a move that was. That Scream defending that position. Very, very well done from him indeed, as Koenblij goes past Old School coming through Brooklands. Again, Old School, he's going to be the one that's going to be the blocker for all of these intermediate guys as Gary does get past Nico. Nico was not going to try and fight that one too hard from his teammate. But, yeah, I mean, as I said, Old School's going to be the blocker for everybody else on those intermediate tyres, and he loves doing stuff like this. I said this last week as well. He loves being that blocker for everybody else, but I don't think he's going to be able to do too much of a job of it because of him being on those wets. As I said though, the guys on the wets, they don't need to make a pit stop. If they don't make a pit stop, the pit stop loss, like you said, is about 30 seconds. It's just dependent if they're going to be able to make that up. Really, the intermediate runners are going to hope that it gets a lot drier. The wet runners are going to hope it gets a lot wetter.
Definitely. So let's see how this is going to play out then in the second half of this race. Old School now, you can see he's several seconds a lap slower, so I don't think defence, and he is actually going to pull to the pit lane. So Old School, well, you thought he'd be the blocker. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case at the moment. So he does dive to the pit lane, will be, I suspect, for intermediate. Still, the rest of them are staying out, so they are using that strategy that I thought they would, as Larkin outing that screen then. The Ferrari under pressure from the Mercedes, but so difficult to find a way through this part of the track. That scream sliding everywhere through the last corner as well. Larkin trying to pressure him, but that scream just with enough in hand heading down the front straight, so he's able to just about hold on to that. Kumbly has now caught Matt Tibos, and Hardy, he's got to try and get these moves done as quickly as possible. Gets a great run on Hardy with the extra grip to the inside lane into the Brooklands, and watch the difference in braking capabilities. He's got the inside lane, a little bit of sideboard contact. Hardy trying to hold it but can't. Simply does not have the grip to get around there, and now drops back, and now Kumbly right with Matt Tibos. Bit of oversteer for the former race leader, but he's still charging. Matt Tibos, I don't think he's going to fight this too hard, or is he? Kumbly charging around the outside, will get through easily there, and Packer, his teammate, is with this as well. So these Williams guys still going at it. They managed to run as a unit so far, and they'll be hoping for podiums in this race. Kumbly not too far adrift from Gary in second place, and with much better tyres to his name, so we'll see how that is going to unfold. But let's watch QVR Packer. Packer with a good run out. Chapel chasing down Hardy, and Matt Tibos then is going to go down the left hand side.
Surely
Hardy's
not.
looking for space, finds it, and they're going to go three abreast almost down the hanger straight towards Stone, and they're three wide in. Packer on the outside squeeze. Hardy goes in, commits late. Packer gets back underneath him to the exit, and side by side again. But it's QVR Packer who gets through the lot. Hardy lagging inside him there, emerges back behind the American. Hardy went for that centre, and Matt Tibos losing 2 places then. Hardy said to Packer though on the outside was very measured, very smart, took his time, used the extra grip, got the move done, and is tracking his teammate through. Now these guys flying at the moment could still be podiums in order for Williams. The question is, can they get to Gary in second place? Gary of course well up the road, but these Williams boys charging. 10.5 laps to go. Can they make up that deficit to the second place man, who also has a penalty to his name?
The interesting thing for me as well is that Gary doesn't seem to be getting too much time on his teammate. Nico is still only 3 seconds behind Gary, and that timing was sort of remaining at around 1.5 seconds throughout the past couple of laps. I don't know whether Gary was just trying to make sure that Nico was staying, maybe trying to keep like any sort of slipstream or anything like that, but Gary needs to get a charge on, as TDB now trying to go around the outside of Matt Tibos coming through Luffield, now coming up around the woodcut as well. Matt Tibos just keeping that inside line, but TDB, there's nothing really that Matt Tibos could do. TDB now up into 8th position and now hounding the back of Hardy. Let's have a look and see, is the Dutchman going to try and go for a move on Hardy as well? Hardy coming through Maggots and Beckett's, he's not going to be able to get any sort of move done, but needs a better run coming out of Chapel. Let's have a look, and sticking on board with the Dutchman. Let's have a look. Hardy, not a good run. Yeah, I think TDB is going to be all over this. A little bit of oversteer for Hardy. That's got to be move done for TDB. You can see him now going around the outside. Hardy's going to try and keep that defensive, but I don't think Hardy's going to be able to do anything. Well, saying that, he does keep it around the outside, and that was a bit of a dive from Hardy, and that is around goes the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, he tried to commit it. TDB thought he'd be clear, but he wasn't, and Hardy just sent it then. And round goes the AlphaTauri's Larkin! And that scream nearly coming together as Larkin got away with that. Then he's got Knuth, the championship leader, right on him. But I think Larkin will hold on to that. I think he's got away without damage. These guys now right with Hardy. That scream has to back off though, heading in to Abbey Corner, and Larkin will be fancying his chances. He's been sat behind the Ferrari for so long. Finds the inside line, he's going to charge into it then. That scream trying to hold it round the outside, and wheel to wheel they go to the loop. It is that scream on the inside line. Larkin looking for traction on the outside, will try and outdrive him through the exit, but that scream's not giving it up. Wheel banging almost round the Ferrari's round. Just a little contact, he manages to save it in the end. Hardy's still defending then, he's lagging backwards and forwards on my screen. Larkin through on the inside will get through. Hardy out wide. No, he's still in front of Larkin. I cannot tell where his car is. He's run wide again for me. Is he going to pop back in front? Larkin, I think, and TDB, and Knuth, sorry, through at the moment. Hardy's car jumping all over the place for me. I'm not sure if it was the same for you, Jack. Now Carmentelis holding back Kublai, holding back Packer. Packer will fancy a run on his teammate then in this fight over P4, as Kublai's not got that much straight line speed. He's going to try and get back to Carmentelis though, looking to the inside line, heading into Stowe. Backs out for the move though. Carmentelis will stay in front. Those wets still have a bit of grip. Yeah, Kublai, the rear end squirming. He tries to put the throttle down, tries to charge at Carmentelis. Carmentelis struggles to get it stopped into the Vale corner. You can see Kublai with much better drives, much better traction, trying to find a way through, but can't just yet. He's pounding away and eventually get the run into Abbey on the inside lane. Very tight entry though, but he will get in front of Carmentelis, and now Packer will try and follow through as well. Kublai all over the road and down the inside goes Kvyat Packer on Ariel Carmentelis, who can't hold it. Through go the Williams after a major fight. Now TDB has reeled these guys in. All that fight by Carmentelis, Kublai and Packer really struggling to get through. TDB has got a penalty, but he's still going to fight it. Of course, spinning the pit lane inside of Carmentelis. Now he's going to get the move done on the McLaren. Now those Williams drivers were controlling the race, but TDB fighting his way back into this now all over that pairing.
The only problem for TDB, he has got that penalty to his name, so realistically he is still about 3 seconds behind those two Williams. He needs to get past them and he needs to get that charge on. They are now fighting for that final podium position. Nico is only 2 seconds up the road, and I don't think the Spaniard is going to be able to try and hold off the charge from these two other QVR drivers. It's just whether or not that Nico is going to try and put up as much of a fight, because don't forget his teammate, he's about 6 seconds up the road, but Gary doing a good job up in second position, just getting that time that he needs to make sure those guys do not catch up to him. Kublai though already 1.5 seconds behind Nico. It was about 2.5 already, just from when they got past Carmentelis. Carmentelis putting up a good fight, but just wasn't to be for the McLaren driver. Really, I think Gary is just hoping that one of these guys at least picks them off a penalty, so then that they can just, well, he can just sort of be safe with keeping these guys behind with that 5 second penalty to his name as well. But Rudy, we haven't talked too much about him since he's gotten into the lead of the race. 14 seconds up ahead of the next car. He played that strategy like a fiddle. He has done so well with that. And again, Rudy, as long as he makes no mistakes, I think this will be his first Division 2 win in the League of Europe.
He has driven supremely. The strategy has carried him through, and Rudy still leads the way, of course. Just the lingering doubt of those tyres lasting, but I think he is looking good for the moment then. As Kublai lining up Nico. Can't quite get the move on the Aston Martin, but it's only a matter of time, surely. Kublai is just eyeing it up, setting it up further back as well. Colour Blue catching up to Carmentelis. The wet runners now beginning to slip back in the mid to late point of this race. ERS now for Kublai, then charging up to Nico. Nico going defensive to the inside line. He's not giving this up, waving all over the place. Kublai trying to get round the outside, can't. And now Packer up behind his teammate. So Nico is doing his teammate a favour here. He wants to try and keep as much of a buffer as he can, and he's holding them back, heading through Maggots and Beckett's while they almost come together. It's a human centipede of cars here. Now let's see, Packer gets a better run than his teammate, almost losing it now. TDB to the outside, Packer covers, they almost make contact. If I think they do make contact. Now Kublai outside of Nico. Nico's not giving it up just yet, holding the inside line through Stowe. They almost come together again. Packer holds of TDB unable to get through that defence from Packer, holding up a defence from Nico, still holding up then, heading through Vale. Can Kublai get through? Nico's doing a brilliant job of holding it, and TDB must have almost been round in the background, and now Carmentelis, even Killer Blue is looking to get in on this then. Nico's still holding the back, down the yellow flags. I think that's Nolan that's gone off then, as Nico covers the inside lane. Kublai much later on the brakes, can he get the inside lane into the loop? He's just alongside inside and dives it. Nico squeezes him tight to the line on the inside there, but Kublai eventually will get through. Packer will try and follow through as well. Again, he's pitched by Nico. Nico now being swapped. TDP will get through as well. What an effort from Nico to hold on. Kublai had to fight like a lion to get that through. He did in the end. Kublai and Packer, that Williams unit, still moving through. Nico, though, what a fight he put up. He was not lying down, and he may well have just gifted his teammate a P2.
I think he certainly has. That was some very good defensive driving from the Spaniard, but wow, what a battle that was. What fair play to Nico, especially on those wet tyres. He knew he was a sitting duck, but I mean, that duck was still floating in that wet tyres, so fair play to Nico for getting that, for defending that well. And yeah, 9 seconds now separates Kublai and Gary. Gary's got 6 more laps to try and survive up ahead of the Dutchman, but you can see how much he's really in. Car Mentalist now been overtaken by Killer Blue, now going to get overtaken by Maledictus. Maledictus now all over the back of the McLaren driver, coming up in towards Stone. Maledictus might try and go for this move down the inside. He does break a bit later than the McLaren, but Car Mentalist not going to be able to fight that one too hard and drops down now into 9th position. These wet runners are being hounded through all of these intermediate drivers. Now Knuth now up into 11th position, just overtaking Matt Tibos for those final points positions down in 11th and 12th. But yeah, Killer Blue now all over the back of Nico. So these wets, they tried a gamble, and unfortunately for them, it's not paid off. The gamble has however paid off for Rudy and for Gary, and the guys that have put on a fresh set of intermediate tyres, well, they've done a very good job so far. Kublai now back up into the podium positions. Are we going to see, though, Packer and TDB try and challenge Kublai for that final podium position? You've really got to try and go for it, surely, for that final podium position, teammate or not. I'd be quite intrigued to see how this is going to end up as Hardy picks himself up. I think that's his second time penalty for the reserve AlphaTauri driver down 13th. Might end up getting jumped by Old School. But Killer Blue all over the bag of the Aston Martin of QVR Nico. I don't think he's going to be able to get past going in towards Cops, but maybe it's whoever's going to get a better run out of Cops, and it looks like Killer Blue's got a much better run out of Cops in comparison to Nico. Maybe coming in towards Baggins and Beckers, we might see him go for a move, but no, we definitely don't. The Spaniard just going to stay up ahead of the Mercedes driver for now. It's just going to cost them a massive amount of time, to the point where Maledictus is now all over the back of Killer Blue. But let's have a look. Killer Blue, much better run coming out of Chapel in comparison to the Spaniard. The Portuguese driver, though, is also going to try and get in on this action. He's going to have the slipstream from both Killer and from Nico. Is the Portuguese going to try and go for a move? Nico goes very defensive from Killer Blue, parks it on the apex. Killer Blue going to try and now go around the outside of the chicane. Nico's going to try and go a bit defensive, weaving all over the place, and Maledictus thought he had something from that. Nico, he tried defending that, but that was very aggressive defending. Completely moves over in front of Killer Blue as he was going to try and go for a move down the inside. I think that was a bit too dangerous from the Spaniard, just moving over when he really, he shouldn't have done that. I think that was a bit too much of aggressive defending. Nico, after this race, might see a penalty come his way, because that was a bit of, well, that was a bit too aggressive in my opinion.
I think my assessment is Killer Blue switched to the inside, Nico covered off, and Killer Blue had to react, went outside, and that caught out Maledictus, who had to take to the escape route. Very lucky none of those guys major damage as Killer Blue still attacking Nico. Nico giving him the squeeze, he's defending so aggressively here. Killer Blue finding grip, though, round the outside of Brooklands, down the inside of Luffield, he's squeezed again. Nico not opening the door at all then, even on these wets, and still Killer Blue struggling to get through. Carmental's picked up a place on the striking car of Maledictus, and then Alpine now behind the McLaren as Killer Blue now attacking again, closing again. Great run out of Cops, surely not into Maggots, he's smarter than that. He will just about set there in 7th place, but look at this, he's got much more grip then, as I think that Screamer lap down is causing a bit of trouble for the cars up in front. There is Nico back over here, surely this is Killer Blue now, gets alongside, but Nico's going to lower the straight line speed, lower the engine power, and that Aston Martin on the inside, I'm getting deja vu here. Nico on the inside, again parks the car less successfully. Killer Blue gets alongside this time, can he get it round the outside this time? He breaks late, but not late enough. Nico Nico holds him off. Maledictus through on Carmento's getting up to these guys. Killer Blue storms around the outside and takes second possession in. More traction, more pace, as now Maledictus swarming all over the back of Nico. Nico trying to hold him off. They almost make a bit of contact. Heading through Abbey Corner. Can he get to the inside lane? Maledictus is going to dive it late. He's got the grip to slow it down, and Maledictus clear of Nico now. Nico now slipping back, has got Carmentos and a whole host of cars now behind him. Valiant defence again from Nico. He's really willing to push the envelope then, but eventually just unable to hold on now down into P8. And I think that's Carmentos taking a lunge at the Aston Martin. McLaren finds a cap inside of Brooklyn's barges Nico off the track. Nico fights back and round goes the Aston Martin. He's collected Larkin, I think. Larkin and Knuth stacking up behind then. And yeah, Nico just trying to get to the inside. Carmentos trying to cover him off. They come together, and the feisty driving of Nico eventually entered an incident. Don't think that one was really too much a fault of either driver. Maybe Carmentos could have left a bit more space, but nevertheless, Nico running into a podium for so long, having to slip back. It's so chaotic. We've just started the third to last lap of the race. Where's all the time gone? Gary in second place, but ultimately, unfortunately for Gary, those Williams drivers charging, I think, are going to steal it away from the Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was just about to say as well, Gary's just losing a stupid amount of time at a point where those two Williams just look so much more comfortable. But this battle for P8 is not over. Knuth was trying to go for maybe a move on Larkin, but Larkin trying to go down the inside of Cup Corner on Carmenta. It's going to try and hold it down the inside for Vale, but Larkin, what a... Well, it just had massive amounts of grips. Knuth now through the final corner, a little bit of contact between the pair of them. Carmentalist not going to give this one up though. Both of those guys have penalties to their name, but let's have a look. They're still both side by side through turn one. Very good drive in front of the pair of them. And Knuth straight down the inside of Carmentalist. What a battle that was between the pair of them. Carmentalist comes out on top. Knuth comes out on top on those intermediate tyres. Carmentalist now down into 10th position. Nico now in 11th with 5.5 seconds behind Carmentalist as well. What a race this has turned out to be so far, Dan. And yeah, I mean, like you said, Gary, he's now losing not only to Kunblai, but now to Packer, and TDB has only got a 5-second penalty to his name as well, so at least he won't lose out to him. But Gary will still end up finishing 4th unless one of these QVR boys in 3rd and 4th picks themselves up a 3-second time penalty. Then really they need to try and close within 2 seconds. But at this present moment, it's looking like they're just going to do just that anyway. So even penalty, a 3-second penalty or not, Kunblai and Packer looks like they will be on this podium.
Yes, certainly, and I think well earned based on pace. They have, along with TDB, I think, been the fastest drivers out there, but you can't discount Rudy. He's taken 16 seconds out of Gary on the same strategy. That is ridiculous pace from Rudy as well. And at the end of the day, it would be a thoroughly deserved race victory. Genius strategy, and made it work. I know he did have a bit of a maybe a slightly controversial moment with Nico then as he got past the Aston Martin going off the track. But in the end of the day, it's not really changed the result of this race. He is winning this by a gargantuan margin. And it's been, as it's been throughout this race, in the last 3 rounds now, crazy races and very big winning margins. I don't want to say that just yet. There's still a lap and a half to navigate, but Rudy can quite simply cruise to the line. And Gary may not even be able to finish ahead of TDB here because these guys are catching so fast. Kunblai, Packer and TDB maybe just a bit too far away to capitalise. Great pace from these Williams guys. Gary will have to settle for 4th. A great drive and a great strategy, but ultimately just isn't quite going to have the pace to hold off those flying Williams behind him.
And the interesting thing as well, I'm quite intrigued to see how Maledictus is going to do against Killer Blue. Of course, with him having that off before, he's actually just trying to keep out of the slipstream of Killer Blue, keeping out of that dirty air. I say dirty air, it's just going to be completely wet in front of him. But yeah, Maledictus, the Portuguese, just going to try and sit behind Killer Blue, maybe try and go for something on the final lap. But the Portuguese driver is looking a lot more comfortable on these intermediates in comparison to the Brit in the Mercedes up in front. Now, Maledictus is probably wishing he had some sort of DRS, but now onto the final lap of this race, and look at Kunblai. He's now only 7 tenths behind Gary, coming up in towards the final chicane and into the final corner. So Gary, the Irishman, is going to feel a bit of pressure. Of course, I don't think Kunblai and Packer are going to try and go for anything. However, they will, it's a last lap effort. Gary I think he's a bit of a sitting duck now. As I said, TDB is not going to jump him because he has that 5-second penalty as well. So TDB is going to be staying in that 5th position as long as Killer Blue somehow doesn't make 4.5 seconds up in one lap. But yeah, Gary, unfortunately for him, he's done a very good strategy as well. Of course, starting down, I think it was in about 12th position, did the Irishman, but still up into 4th regardless as Kun Blyer. I thought he was going for a bit of a lunge in towards Brooklands, but no, he's just going to sit behind the Irishman for now. I wonder if we're going to see a bit of a battle going on between these two Williams boys though, because Packer is just hounding the back of Kun Blyer and hounding the back of Gary. But yeah, Packer, he just looks like, I think he might actually be the quicker one out of the two. It's hard, yet another 3-second time penalty for the AlphaTauri driver. But yeah, Gary, done a very good strategy. Rudy, though, we have to give all the kudos to him because what a strategy he has pulled off ever since he put in those intermediate tyres. And you could see from that safety car restart, he just looks so much more comfortable in comparison to everybody else. He's now rounding the final chicane. You said big margins were what have won for the last 3 races. Here is another one. Rudy along the final corner and to win round number 4 of Division 2. Gary will come home in second on track, but he's going to be jumped by Kun Blyer and going to be jumped by Packer. Gary across the line to finish second, to finish third, to finish 4th. Kun Blyer in second, Packer in third. TDB will finish in 5th. It looks like Killer Blue will stay up ahead of Maledictus in the end for 6th position. So good battle in between those guys as well. Larkin looks like he will finish in 8th. Knuth in 9th. Car Mentalist with some very aggressive battling. But Fair indeed does end up taking that 10th position. Nico actually might jump him from penalties. He does. So Nico in 10th. Car Mentalist in 11th. Matt Tibos and Old School both going at it. But Old School is going to get that final point. Matt Tibos down in 13th. Zardama in 15th. And Hardy will come home in 14th down. And what a race that was. Despite there being wet weather, still ceases to amaze me how that went on.
Yeah, certainly. And, I mean, just hats off to all the drivers, because putting up with that for the wet conditions for an entire race, you're driving against your innate instincts. You just floor the throttle, you have to feather it, and in the end they managed to do a fantastic job out there, and they have been rewarded. Driver of the day by the game goes to Maledictus. Great recovery drive from him after qualifying and the first lap of the race to bounce back. Had great pace through the rain, but it was in the end, this man, wow, Rudy coming through, just nailing that strategy. And of course, I'm hoping we will get the thoughts from the top 3 drivers. In the end, of course, it was Rudy, Kun Blyer and Packer who managed to finish on the podium then. Of course, Kun Blyer and Packer, we haven't really seen much from this season. Actually, none of these 3 guys have really had the best season up to this point, so they'll be very happy to get their seasons going. But yeah, there's Rudy wins it. Kun Blyer in second place. Packer third, does grab the fastest lap of the race though, so will take an extra championship point. Gary, now that was the penalty he got was under safety car. I think it was I think it may have been Marcel he came together with, so we'll see. We'll see, of course, how that's going to unfold if he can get that removed and get that second place. CDB is 5th. On track behind him, sparing the pit lane. That cost him. Killer Blue really struggled in the wet conditions, unfortunately. Still gets a decent points haul in 6th. Maledictus fought him to the line. Ends up 7th from Larkin. And P8 good recovery drive from those guys for certain. Then Knuth, not the race that we've seen from him in the past, but I think he will still maintain his championship lead. Not by much though. Nico was 10th. Carmentos and Old School round out the points finishers. Matt Tibos, Hardy and Zenema round out the finishers. And then it was Zenema. And then it was that Scream Nolan, Ashida, Marcel, Assassin, unable to see out the checkered flag in the end. So that's it then. That's round 4 in the books. We're going to get these guys, I'm going to invite these guys into the party for the interviews. We'll get their thoughts, and well, they've certainly earned their money tonight through the wet conditions. Hear from those, I imagine they're all going to be exhausted after that one, Jack.
Trust me, I'm exhausted just after that one just alone, so I can't imagine what all 3 of these guys are going to be feeling like. But yeah, what a race that was. Rudy just played that strategy, as I said, to absolute perfection. Did not put a foot wrong in that race, and well, you could see 16 seconds up in front. of course, as I said, there was a little bit of dodgy manoeuvres from him, I must admit. That one move on Nico around Stowe. But, yeah, I mean, regardless, he still had a very good drive. Gary, like you said, I think he might end up getting that 5 seconds removed. So if he does, then, well, yeah, P2 for the Irishman from starting outside of the top 10. Again, both of those guys starting outside the top 10. Very good drive from the both of them. Kunblai does take the second position, though, just for now, pending, of course, any stewards' inquiries. And Packer rounding out that podium as well. The American, I think, starting to come back a bit more into form. And hopefully we'll be able to see him maybe try and come out on top with a race win sometime this season. But, yeah, I mean, what a race that was. Kunblai and Packer just were almost in a class of their own. Rudy, though, was the one that came out on top with that strategy. We're just waiting to see if these guys are going to come and join us for some podium interviews. But, yeah, I mean, as I said, that was a very good race without a doubt. And, well, I'm quite intrigued to see how these are going to go. We'll start off with, of course, the one that was leading for the majority of the race, as he has joined the party. Kunblai, well, what
Hello.
a race that was from you, my friend. But, unfortunately, I think Rudy just kind of pipped you at that with that strategy. How was that race for you for today? Because, well, starting on the full wets, I can't imagine you enjoyed that one.
Well, because I was driving in the front, I was enjoying it. And the pace on the wets was very good, but yeah, Rudy got the strategy right, so GG to him.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. And yeah, obviously, you and Packer, I know you two had sort of just jumped off ahead and just, well, you two were just kind of blitzing it through the beginning of this race. Were you two just kind of playing a bit of a team strategy game, or was was Packer actually trying to go for you? I'm assuming that you two were sitting in a party with each other as well.
Yeah, we were in a party. He wasn't going for it, I think, hard, but yeah, because before the race we said we wanted some good results for William, so I'm happy.
Yeah,
how
we're
today
a bit mudded
went out.
until now.
Well, second and third at this present moment anyway. The second and third, a very good drive from the pair of you two as well. Obviously
Yeah,
going
thanks.
up to Singapore next week as well, Kunblai. Is that a track that maybe favours you, or something that might go a bit downhill for you as well?
Singapore is usually one of my favorite tracks, so if I put in the practice, maybe next week can be good also.
No, of course.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
Hopefully, we'll see you guys, of course, as well. Dan, any sort of questions for the top two?
Yeah, of course. I think you may feel a little aggrieved in the past in Division 2. I think that often you've not been able to do full seasons when you could have had a run at the Championship. But of course, a good so for you today, without a doubt. That will put you right back in it in this chaotic season. No one's really been able to break away so far besides Knuth, but we'll see how that's going to unfold. But how do you rate your chances further down the line in the season heading forward then? Of course, we've still got a lot of way to go, 13 races, so how do you rate your chances throughout the remainder of the season?
I don't know, because I'm gonna miss a race or two in the season, so I'll just have to look race to race. And the next 6 races I will be there, so I'll look after that. I can't tell you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, hopefully,
I
as I
really
said,
don't
we do
know.
get to see you back in for these podium interviews for today. But yeah, very good P2 at this present moment, and yeah, very good drive indeed. We'll move on, of course, over to
Thanks.
our third place on the podium, Mr. QVR Packer, another QVR driver. A very good race from you as well. Obviously, you and Kunblai, just as I said, you two were just in a class of your own. Again, that race, I'm sure you was just playing a bit of a team game, but was there moments that you really you just thought you wanted to get past him and just try and overtake him, but it just didn't work out for you? Was you trying to go for a move at any point, or was you just trying to just sit behind him and just hope for a good result?
Well, in the first stint, he was clearly faster than me, so I was just hoping to hold on. And then the second stint on the intermediates, it was a lot better for me. I I was a lot more comfortable. So I was able to keep pace, and sometimes I thought I was a little bit faster, but it wasn't really until the final lap where I thought I had an opportunity, and I almost wiped out both of us. So, yeah. Would have been USA all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you would have been too happy with that either. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, it was a very good drive from the pair of you as well, playing that team game. You almost played that to perfection. It's just unfortunate for you guys that Rudy played that, I think, just a little bit better anyway. But, yeah, I mean, as I said, moving on over to Singapore next week. I know you've had quite a few, like in the past, even in League of Europe, you've had some pretty good races around Singapore. Are you hoping to maybe, instead of being on the bottom step of the podium, to try and get on that top step of the podium next week?
Well, I probably should have won Singapore 3 seasons in a row, if I'm going to be completely honest. But some interesting circumstances like penalties and damage and weather have affected that. So hopefully this season, even though it's not been going too well until tonight, hopefully I can reverse my fortunes for next week.
Yeah, well, I said fingers crossed for yourself as well. Any sort of questions for the man sitting on the third place of the podium, Dan?
Yeah, I guess the question from me would be, of course, I still remember that race in Division 3 that but
I'm sure Jack remembers it well.
I guess the question from me is, are you going to break the duck at Singapore? Are things finally going to go round your way at that track? Do you think you can stand on the top step of that podium, or are you going to bottle it again? How do you think things are going to play
I'm
out?
probably going to bottle it, but hopefully, hopefully I'll do well. Me and Kumbla really need to get back into this championship. We gave them a little bit of a head start, but now I think we are starting to find our form, and hopefully the next few weeks will go well.
Well, hopefully we do see that from yourself, Packer. But yeah, thank you also for joining us. Yeah, congratulations on third place at this moment, because I know Gary is absolutely boasting in the Discord that he is trying to get his 5 seconds removed. So just soak it up while you can. So yeah, very good drive from yourself indeed. I don't think we're going to be getting Rudy in the party. I have asked him multiple times, but he just doesn't seem to be joining in the party.
He joined.
He is. Oh, he is here. Oh, okay. For some reason, PlayStation just did not want to say he was here. So yeah, Rudy. Well, you finally in here. But yeah, congratulations on your win for tonight. That Inter's strategy was an absolute masterclass. I wasn't too sure. It was a big gamble, but that paid off. How was that win for you?
Yeah, it feels amazing. Of course, after moving up to D2, after D3 last season, of course, a battle with Mark. And yeah, I didn't expect to have good pace in the wets. Last time I had good pace in the wets was in Spain last season, and we all know what happened back then.
we won't talk about that. That's fine. We'll just we'll keep that out. We'll keep that for last season. What happened last season stays in last season. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a very good drive indeed. Obviously, trying to make your way through all of those wet guys. I mean, it did look like a struggle at first, but I mean, I think when the rain started to ease up, it just looked a lot more comfortable for yourself. In those conditions, I mean, as you said, the last time you had a very good race was out in Spain last season. Now you've managed to capitalise on that win, and by 16 seconds as well. Is this really where you might start to have a bit of a title charge on these guys now? Are these next tracks that are coming up favouring yourself?
To be honest, I don't really know the calendar at my head, so I can't say. But yeah, I've had a few races this season already where I feel like I should have had a good result, like in USA when I had a little incident with I can't remember who it was, but yeah, no, this race win feels amazing. Of course, I did have a little incident with Gary, so apologies to him, because into turn 3 I accidentally put my brake bias on 59 instead of 56, so I went straight on into the back of him. So yeah, probably gonna get reported for that, which is fair. But yeah, still, I didn't. Once I got into the rhythm, it started becoming really comfortable. I saw how far the guys who were still on the wets were, because I went onto the inters because I saw my wets were overheating quite a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't have grip at all. So during that safety car, I just went onto the inters because I thought that was the decision, which it clearly was. And I was still improving my times until the last few laps, so those inters held on really well. So yeah, pretty happy, of course.
Fair enough, fair play. Yeah, I mean, as I said, you did that and it worked out to perfection. So very massive congratulations over to yourself. Yeah, I said it is Singapore up next week, so hopefully again we may see you up on this into the podium interviews. Dan, any questions for our race winner?
I guess for me is that, well, you touched on perhaps struggling in wet conditions in the past. Of course, probably are going to get plenty more rain, plenty more moisture in the air this season. Not least at Singapore, that the rain could definitely strike there. Of course, what does this win do for your confidence going into future wet races? How can you carry yourself forward then, and will you fancy your chances heading into every wet race heading through this season now?
Yeah, now I've had this race pretty comfortably in the wet. I had good pace, was really surprised by that, so now it really helps with confidence. Of course, I have way more confidence in the wet, but I know that Gary did have some damage because of our incident, so I know he probably wasn't up to his full speed, but still I was pretty happy with the pace compared to Packer and Koen, because they were on new inters and I was on a bit more worn. So, and they of course had to struggle as well getting past the full wet guys. But yeah, pace felt good and will definitely help with the confidence in future wet races.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, hopefully we do see you more up here. Obviously, when it does start to rain it down. But yeah, as I said, massive congratulations once again for taking the race win for tonight. As I said, pending any stewards, any sort of stewards inquiries. But yeah, very big congratulations to yourself. But Dan, as I said, what an absolute insane race that was. Obviously, Singapore next week as well. And you know, the past two seasons, for season 4 and season 5, Division 2, Singapore has been voted the best race of the season. I'm hoping we're going to see something like that next week. Any sort of guesses as to who you think might end up possibly going to take it?
That's quite hard to say because when it's been
I think Packer wants us to pick him.
Just so I can throw it in a wall lap one.
You know what? Yeah, sure. Packer, you're going to win this. There you go. All the pressure is on you now, mate. Of course, you should have won this, as you said, the last 3 seasons in a row in Division 3 and Division 2. So it's all on you. You have to win. So, yeah, just yeah, put up with that. Anyway, yeah, just to round up my thoughts from this race at Silverstone was absolutely electric. Yet, Again, like I said earlier, great job to all the drivers. It can be very tricky, especially in a full wet race, having to concentrate for near on an hour. But these guys all pulling through, and that shows their quality here in Division 2. So well done to all of them. I'm very excited to see what the standings look like after this race. I think they're going to be jumbled up yet again. I think Knuth will still lead the way in the standings, but it's certainly closed up a little bit. So I think that is just about all there is from me, Jack. Great race here at Silverstone yet again. Can't wait for Singapore next week.
Certainly cannot wait for Singapore next week indeed. And yeah, you are right. Those standings will be completely jumbled up. We'll, of course, let you guys know next week once also the stewards, pending any stewards inquiries, what the updated standings will be next week on the stream. But thank you to everybody for tuning in for tonight. Make sure you guys do check out round number 5 next week. Of course, PC on 8 PM British Standard Time or UK time every Friday. And then Division 1, 3 and 4 at 6:30 PM British Standard Time. And Division 2 and Division 5 at 8:10 British Standard Time as well. As I said, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. And we will catch you guys next week for round